AI was able to predict the race of the person just from an X-ray. Like,
Wow, that's
can you
pretty.
imagine? Is it going to be better than a parent? Let's say we perfect robotics within the next 10 years.
That's very
and
interesting.
We put AI in all those movies based off of true stories or true figure.
Yeah.
The actor who memorized those equations for the part of the movie, is that person now smarter than the actual true figure? Hey everyone, so we're going to be reacting to Sam Altman's recent controversial line where he said something along the lines that no kid will be smarter than AI. Maybe we can
Is
take
that
a
controversial, do you think?
Let's see what he says, and then we can comment on it.
Perfect. Okay.
A kid born today will never be smarter than AI. Ever. And a kid born today, by the time that kid like kind of understands the way the world works, will just always be used to an incredibly fast rate of things improving and discovering new science. They will never know any other world. It will seem totally natural. It will seem unthinkable and Stone Age-like that we used to use computers or phones or any kind of technology that was not way smarter than we were.
So let's see. What are your initial thoughts on that? Like what?
Okay.
Yeah.
So my initial thought when I first watched this was I was like, I kind of agreed with it, to be honest. At the start, I'm like, okay, the way AI is working, the way it's advancing, how fast it is, it does kind of make sense that AI will be smarter. But then my neuroscientist aspect of me, I was like, okay, wait, what does he mean by smart?
Right.
Because there's just so many different areas of being smart, right? And typically what most people will end up thinking about when we're talking about smart is someone with a high IQ. But that's not necessarily the case all the time. There's many different types of intelligence, whether it's IQ, which is more like analytical, cognitive, pattern recognition. But there's so many other aspects.
Which ChatGPT is going to just kill, right? We all agree with that.
If we compare a human with a calculator in terms of analysis for like mathematical stuff, it's just not even a question, right?
Right.
But does it mean that it's smarter? It's just doing a function. It's not thinking. But then when we get into stuff like, okay, what about emotional intelligence? What about street smarts? What about adaptability? What about creativity? These are all different aspects of intelligence. So are you telling me that AI will just completely demolish us in every aspect of intelligence? So is the next 100 years just going to be like, over time we're following the same path as that movie Idiocracy, where everything is just done automatically by robots and we're just like getting dumber and dumber comparatively?
That's pretty much what he's predicting. I don't think what we're looking at right now with ChatGPT and AI is that smart that we're talking about. I think smart needs a subject. I think smart needs like a spirit.
But the issue then here becomes like, okay, so all of those all those movies based off of true stories or a true figure, the actor who memorized those equations for the part of the movie, is that person now smarter than the actual true figure? And that might be kind of be off tangent, like might not be the best comparison, right? Because like AI can now move past those equations that it memorized. But the thing is, I use AI quite a bit in my job, and it still struggles with a lot of the different aspects that I do. Even very simple instructions. I'd argue that GPT-5 is probably worse than GPT-4 when it comes to some of the things that I ask to do for me, right? It's good at grunt work. Like, it can check my work to make sure there aren't any grammatical mistakes or there's no duplicate terms or something like that, or keywords. But like, it still struggles to accurately categorize specific videos, even despite the fact that I fed it so much information, right? So I don't think GPT is necessarily smart. I think it's more so that like it's just doing grunt work and just using based off information.
Tool.
Yeah.
And these are tools, right? There's one great analogy that I heard, and I think about it all the time. So let's say you had a parrot, and your parrot was just, it was sitting down and it was able to say a sentence. You might say hello, good morning, and then they would say good morning, right? What if that parrot had all the world's knowledge, and it would be able to respond to you, but you knew it was a parrot who didn't know what it was saying? Would that take away from the intelligence of the parrot?
Yeah, I think that's where people are going to question, right? Like, how are we measuring intelligence? If someone can memorize the entire dictionary of all languages, all the world, compared to a human, maybe a lot of people would probably say, well, the parrot is smarter than you because it was able to memorize so much stuff, right? Because the thing is, when we talk about a lot of smart people, they often have such good memories, right? When we think about, like, for example, in the show Suits, that guy had a photographic memory, and he's seen as someone super smart because he could just pull out information like no other day.
And he would be indistinguishable from a GPT type character, where it's just like, okay, there's this law, where's the loophole? Boom, it can find it for you. Is that what we're talking about? When I think about intelligence, what I think about is Isaac Newton. I think about Einstein. I'm talking about this almost mystical intuition that that I don't believe somebody can just generate through just previous... I mean, of course, they're standing on the shoulders of giants, but like Einstein's thought experiment of like chasing like a particle of light or a photon of light, right? And it's like, what time it must be going slower, or relativity. So I think there has to be, if you're void of that, like a GPT type figure, then you can be a great recounter of events. You can be a great memorizer, but you can't be a great innovator. I mean, I could be proven wrong. In that, like GPT, all it would have to do is have a major discovery.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, my issue here is that when we're thinking about smart people, like you said, for you, it's a metaphysical thing, right? Just being innovative, thinking of new, novel ideas. I just don't know if ChatGPT or AI can do that right now without it being prompted. You know what I mean? Versus us, we're not being prompted when we're trying to, or maybe you can argue that it can. That
when you break things down, like on like a physicalist sort of materialist level, like you could say, if you don't believe in a soul or a spirit, you could say fundamentally we're not that different. Like you could argue that in some weird way, I think. Because, like, you can use the whole, like, okay, there's these electrons in a computer that are bits and whatnot. We have our on and off neurons that you can speak to a lot better than I can, right? So a lot of people would argue, like, oh, materially, there's no reason why a computer cannot get consciousness. And then it could be that thing that we're talking about.
Yeah. Again, right? So, for example, when I was thinking about this again, right? When, especially with emotional intelligence, for example... Maybe AI just becomes another quote unquote person where it's better than most people in certain things and worse than people in other things. Similarly to how humans are better than some, in some aspects, but worse in some aspects, right?
Sure.
But I think like with AI, it's just gonna be something that like, is it gonna be better than a parent? Let's say we perfect robotics within the next 10 years.
That's very interesting.
We put AI in it, and then we get the parent, like we get the AI we feed the AI like millions of pictures of babies looking sad, happy, disgruntled.
They have all the textbooks. They have everything written about what you're supposed to do.
Is this robot now going to be a bit smarter parent than traditional moms?
If there is a closed environment, right? Where there's rules and boundaries established very cleanly, we have no chance. That's my belief.
Yeah, the rook.
But, like, it's undeniable. There's not a single player, dead or alive, in chess that will ever be able to beat the best AI in chess. Period. End of story.
Yeah.
There's 64 squares. The rules are very well defined. If that's the environment we're talking about, if we're using smart as able to achieve some sort of end, we will never be better, in my opinion, if there's a close set. The thing about the world that makes it so beautiful is that it's like uncalculable or incalculable, the number of variables and things that you have to consider. And that's where I think AI will not be. And again, we can look back on this and just be wrong. You know?
Because the thing is, okay, so for example, even let's take medicine, for example, doctors, right? Like, I actually published a paper not like a few years ago at the start of my PhD comparing at that time like machine learning ability to like look at MRIs of the brain versus humans, right? And we did better, but now 5 years, it's been like 5 years since I published that paper, and I'm sorry, but like AI will like completely demolish like most people, you know, whether it's in pathology or in radiology.
Yeah.
And there was even a paper, like there was this thing not too long ago where like even though it wasn't prompted, I believe AI was able to predict the race of the person just from an X-ray. So it's like, this is why, like, for example, like radiology and pathology, like, those are the two areas of medicine that's going to be completely impacted. You know, whether it replaces radiologists or becomes a tool to make radiologists and pathologists more efficient.
Right.
That's for the future to tell, right?
So this kind of harps back into the whole closed system that we're talking about. So radiology, or you can confirm,
pathology.
You need, like, you're looking at these scans for some sort of abnormality, right?
Yeah.
Like, the game is so clear, it's so, like, boom, 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 where that's where they will excel.
Yeah.
But yeah, continue.
But yeah, so, like, in that kind of aspect, maybe you can say it is smarter than most people. But then, let's go back to the robotics again, because robots are definitely most likely going to be within our lifetime.
Sure.
Let's say we put AI into a robot, and let's put it in the hood. Is it going to be as good in adapting and protecting itself than someone who was born and raised in the hood, right? Because now we're talking about street smarts, right?
Right. And I think probably yes, man. I think,
you think so?
I think there's no reason why it couldn't. If we spoke of it more like a tool, then I wouldn't feel as bad about these sort of sweeping statements. But we're speaking almost as if it's like a singularity, like in all the movies everybody watches where there's just that thing that's able to control everything, shuts the banks off, it has its own motives. There is no motive.
But do you think we can potentially replicate it? In the same way that ChatGPT is now replicating emotion when it's responding to us and stuff like that, do you think we can get to a point? Because the thing is, when we're thinking about AI, right, we're talking about literally emulating neural network. The same way the brain works, they're literally building all of those connections that when we're thinking about consciousness from a materialistic standpoint, is just a bunch of neurons releasing specific neurotransmitters that's causing changes within, like, the electric charges and stuff like that, which results in a charge, like, that causes us to think and have a personality.
Right.
And as AI is progressing and we're starting to emulate those same neural networks, might not have that same philosophical consciousness, but but it may get to a point where it's now emulating materialistic consciousness.
Right. And here's the problem. What you're saying, in my view, is the most interesting topic in the world right now. Problem with consciousness is, like, neither of us could even prove that we are conscious to the other person. But you could be the robot who's doing all these things, and I would have no way of proving that you have subjective internal experience. I don't know. We just take it on faith because I'm a human being and I know I do. It must mean you do. So if GPT ever achieved some level of consciousness, then we couldn't know. But there's one great experiment. There's this philosopher who wrote a paper on it. One of the smaller reasons why I think it's just not possible, he described consciousness as what it is like to be something. So, for example, I can ask you, what is it like to be a cat? You might say, oh, it won't think like us. It won't have language like us, but maybe it's like feeling some sensation of hunger, so it's going to go try to get some food. All these things are like lifelike experiences that an animal might have. But if I said, what is it like to be GPT?
Yeah, I couldn't put a...
There's nothing it is like to be GPT.
Looping back to that whole smartness thing, there's just so many aspects, right? So many angles. And we're not even talking about, like, from an academic standpoint, even linguistically, like, and culturally, what does it mean to be smart? You know what I mean? So to say such a blanket statement that no child born now will ever be smarter than AI, to me, I feel like it's a reach. It's a stretch.
Right.
And I think it's a marketing and promotional stretch.
And I'm with you entirely on that.